Hello, everybody. Welcome to another daily dose of gaming news and all that good stuff. And as always, I also publish on Rumble and on Patreon for extra support. Any kind of updates and the such usually go about on Twitter X. And later today, I think I can manage to squeeze out a Midnight Suns episode. And yeah, basically that's it regarding the channel updates. Again, just a completed gameplay series here. Some probably out of the I don't know, out of date tutorials here. But yeah, I like to keep even older videos, so at least as a reference point for me. But yeah, other than that, let's go to the news. Interesting that supposedly ARM is to trying to cancel Qualcomm's design licensing, giving 60-day notice. From what I understand, ARM licensed their I don't know, their design chip designs there to Qualcomm, and with that said, of course, it takes a cut out of the profits from Qualcomm. But it seems to be some shenanigans happening here. Again, I'm not a lawyer regarding this situation, so I don't. My perception is that Qualcomm acquired another ARM designer company, which is Nuvia. And Qualcomm at the time says that by acquiring the company, they also inherit Nuvia's license from ARM. But ARM says it disagrees and wants the terms to be renegotiated. Qualcomm has just announced its Elite series for phones featuring Nuvia's Orion cores. Again, I don't know the licensing terms between Qualcomm and ARM, and even between Nuvias and ARM. But given that ARM wants the terms to be renegotiated, I will assume that Nuvia's I don't know, a cut to be given to ARM is smaller than Qualcomm's. Probably this was one of the reasons that Qualcomm tried to get away with the, I don't know, legally, let's say, get out of offering too much money to ARM by acquiring Nuvia, because I will assume that the negotiations between Nuvia and ARM are completely different from Qualcomm and ARM, mainly because of the scale of the what Qualcomm does in terms of the market shares and everything. And I think they squeeze out and try to get away from giving too much money to ARM, which, interesting enough, this kind of licensing deals, to a certain extent or to the full extent, they make the products a little bit expensive, especially for the consumer, because when Qualcomm designs a chip like this for smartphones or whatever it is, usually they have to take an account that they have to deliver a cut of the profits or the revenue to ARM company. And to a certain extent, ARM is very dependent on Qualcomm because of basically the market share that Qualcomm has regarding chip manufacturing. But yeah, I think with that taken account, with what we can call the intermediaries in this process, the product will be more expensive to the final consumer. That's why I think it's one of the reasons that we have this super high-end new smartphones that, for example, are designed with Snapdragon chips. They are very, very expensive, at least when they come out. And again, I think this, in overall scheme of things, just makes products more expensive in overall pockets of consumers. And I think, I'm not sure, I don't follow up this close, this like the smartphone stuff with are the chips from Snapdragon. I know Snapdragon is like basically the top tier, if I'm not mistaken. I think Samsung is their own Axios, I think, chips, which I think, again, they are also ARM chips or ARM licensing licensed chips and stuff like that, if not mistaken. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes from Qualcomm itself, so they design specifically. But if not mistaken, there is kind of a ARM kind of the Risk 5, if not mistaken. I think it's based on ARM, but it's open source, the Risk 5, if not mistaken. But yeah, I think this might be a good alternative. if it is what I think it is, which is RISC-V being an open source version of what we usually consider as chip design stuff there, and the licensing stuff being that RISC-V is open license, mainly because it was done through university program or something like that. Again, I might be completely wrong on this, but at least that's the perception that I have regarding this. But yeah, this if this takes place, because I think that because in the meanwhile ARM took Qualcomm to court, if not mistaken, and I think the decision or the proceedings will continue or start on December. And I think ARM tried to be smart as and basically try to cancel the licensing agreement by trying to override the court's decisions or the court proceedings. But yeah, this doesn't look very good because again, funny enough, ARM is mainly dependent on Qualcomm to get their own revenue because again, I don't think they manufacture or design chips by themselves. They basically hold the license for other companies to be able to design chips taking the ARM technology. But yeah, we'll have to see how this might impact this dispute that they have. But yeah, hopefully everything gets resolved. Even though again, it seems by this article that Qualcomm is not in good terms with ARM. Qualcomm is not good terms with ARM, and vice versa. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how this might be wrapping up because this can be a little bit can affect a lot of the desktop and even laptop products there because we saw at least AMD, I think they have like a division that are trying to see the possibilities of designing outside of the x86 architecture in some aspects, even though I think NVIDIA and AMD are trying to work together to work around this 886 and fine tune the best they can the x86 architecture. Because in this case, Intel is the one that owns the license of x86, and they license that the design of the chips that work on x86 architecture to AMD, but it's kind of a symbiotic relationship with that between those two companies because to a certain degree I think they keep their engineering teams on the lookout between optimizations because again it's a little bit like competition. If you have a good competitor, you cannot be sloppy on your designing and launching products. Even though I think Intel I think these new chips, the Arrow Lake, I think, I'm hearing some rumblings that something is not good on those chips also. But yeah, other than that, regarding this ARM and Qualcomm, again, this might impact, I think, mainly in a short-term laptop production in terms of the CPU stuff, because we have, for example, with NVIDIA, they use for their own AI accelerators, the CPU part is designed around ARM architecture. And I think there is trying to be an implementation of putting the CPU on ARM architecture, mainly because usually it's less expensive in terms of energy. So it saves more energy, and it can't do in terms of productivity workloads and even gaming workloads. I think it can perform pretty well comparatively, at least on the laptop range. But yeah, I think there is trying to get a move around that. Mainly because also there is some limits to the x86 architecture regarding how we can the smaller you go in terms of production and designing those chips. I think we reach a point that it's basically I think it's been speculated that it has a lifespan of around I don't know, 15 years or so until you can squeeze out everything that you can from that architecture. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff that can be affected by this. But yeah, we still, I think Risk 5 is ARM kind of a thing there, or very similar to that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how this will go. But yeah, this is what I got here from hardware. In terms of gaming news, we got now this game that came out from Xbox Partner Showcase a few days ago. And this one kind of got me interested here. The Cronos, the new Dawn. I think it was the second trailer that they showed on that presentation. And now we have at this moment what I can consider I don't know placeholder specifications for the PC. Because this game is going to be on Unreal Engine 5, even though it seems to be from the description here, which is basically a third-person survival horror game with survival elements featuring intriguing setting that blends retrofuturistic technology and brutalism. The game takes place both in a future devastated by cataclysm and the 80s Poland setting. Again, this game might not be that demanding because of what kind of game it is. Kind of third person, very straightforward, I will assume, or some very small areas for you to explore. So I think in terms of demanding of the hardware, might be a little bit less than the games we are used to see on Unreal Engine. But I think this is a placeholder here. Again, this is from Steam, this information, and in terms of recommended requirements, again, I usually have to take this in account as 1080p 60 as like the baseline recommended, given that the minimum usually goes around 720p 60, 1080p 30ish in like basic settings or medium settings, something like that. I usually consider from Steam, given that the other games that usually list these recommended requirements usually are for around 1080p 60 in high settings, give or take, around that. And again, it's at this point in time is not that demanding in terms of hardware on CPU, and even on GPU got 30 series, so 3080, which is 10 gigabytes of VRAM, and a Radeon 6800 XT, which is a pretty decent GPU, even though this one has 16 gigabytes of VRAM. But in terms of performance, if they are not limited by VRAM, I think it's kind of same in terms of performance. Supposedly the game will not be that big, around 50 gigabytes of space available for your hard drive or SSD. But yeah, other than that, I don't see a huge thing here. Even the minimum requirement still only needs a 1080p, a 1080 GTX 1080, or even an RX 5700 XT. And even the CPU there is very low in terms of demanding. So again, I will assume this is to go about around 1080p 60, at least medium to high settings. I will assume that. But again, take this as a placeholder for now. Again, this game was just announced very recently. This might be like a placeholder so people can have a rough idea until the game is launched. We don't know when this game is going to be launched. We will have to assume between next year. I will assume in about 1 year's time, because a horror movie usually fits well on the Halloween kind of time frame there. So I will give it at least 1 more year to the game launch, or at least to have fully details and probably see more information. But again, we got good information from the Steam page description here. Basically, players control a traveler, an agent of mysterious collective. Again, we don't know what this is, tasked with exploring a future devastated by a cataclysm and traveling to the 80s Poland through time portals. The mission involves finding people who died in a catastrophe and extracting their essences using Soul Reaper to bring them back to the future. And the gameplay supposedly will combine strategic combat and exploration in a desolate environment where enemies, creatures deformed by humanity, lurk around every corner. Again, creatures deformed by humanity, so it gives a hint that there was some experience done that went completely awry. Again, very interesting, the setup. I at this moment don't need to see more explanation. I have to hope that the story of the game is at least pretty good. What I need more now is to see proper gameplay, and have more definitive recommended requirements to how much hardware do you need to play this game in a decent frame rate and decent resolution. Other than that, it's just a little seeing a little bit more gameplay to be more or less excited for this game. Because itself, I think the setting, it's already self-explanatory. I think it's a pitch elevator thing there, but I think it's good enough to keep people hooked or not on this kind of idea. Then we got also, again, this guy, Shawn Layden, is being appearing here and there the last couple of weeks. At least that's what I noticed there. I'm not sure what he's trying to do around here, given that he is at this moment in time on Tencent. But it's talking about a lot of Sony. I don't know what what Tencent is trying to do around Tencent. What Tencent is trying to do around PlayStation. But again, supposedly in a recent interview with IGN Japan, which adds its value depending, was asked his side for regarding the current state of industry alongside some events during his tenure at Sony, most notably given his opinion of Sony Japan studio being merged within Asobi. Interesting enough, again, I don't know. I think he dodged a little bit the question here because this happened way back when. But yeah. Um, Again, Sony Japan they made Shadow of Colossus. I never played this game because it basically is a console exclusive. But Gravity Rush, I remember hearing this game around. Ape Escape, I think I heard this game somewhere. Sony Japan, the guys that did Shadow of Colossus, or at least I think they did Eco, which is one game that I played. I think it's from this guy, Sony Japan. They did the guy, the game director also did Shadow of Colossus and another game, and Eco Guardian something. I completely forgot the name. I'm sorry, but yeah, they were merged with Team Asobi. Yeah, uh, I think there is something to be said what he's saying here, which is basically criticizing a Japanese studio for trying to reach global audiences. I think this is a good overall not sentence, a feeling around this, saying that they don't have to be, they have not been successful for a long time, which is trying to cater to global audiences, which to a certain extent, when you try to cater to a global audience, you remove your own quirks and your own point of views of the projects that you're trying to do, because then you enter on what we can call the checklist mode, which is for you to be formatted in the global audience, you have to have this, we have to remove this, or something like that, and you basically enter in your in a self-censoring cycle when you are trying to be creative and do something creative there. And now he applauds Square Enix for abandoning its ambition to expand development overseas. Again, this is, I think, Square Enix is cutting up on the fact that the shit show that they've been launching so far in certain projects there, they are seeing that it's not worth compromising the vision of your own developers for you to try and cater to a global audience that it's not a usually global audience. They are trying to cater for a very vocal and very small minority of people that are online, I don't know, complaining about everything in the world. Again, what it made Japanese games or Japanese studios very enticing, and people wanted to play them, it's because they have their own unique vision of when they make games. That's what makes those studios adored and very profitable, let's say, is because they do the things in their own way, instead of trying to cater to a global audience, let's say. You got the case of, for example, From Software. Even though it at the time when they came out, especially with not Demon Souls but Dark Souls, it was considered very niche, very odd kind of game, and the gameplay systems and how you tell a story throughout the gameplay and the scenarios and the levels that you go through. Again, they maintain their DNA still today, um, and I think Elden Ring might have suffered a little bit here and there in certain aspects, but very. I don't see any issues with that. But I think the Bandai Namco, the fact that they published Elden Ring globally, I think it might have some interference, but not much, because the game for me is excellent. It's a GOTY for sure. But yeah, some I think some of the localization there in some aspects was not made like perfect. Uh, and by a contrast, not even Dark Souls games were perfectly localized, because again, if you go through the lore and all that jazz, you will see that there are some mistranslations there. But other than that, the fact that in my case, the point that I try to make is From Software, because they maintain their vision of how they go and approach a project. It's pretty consistent because they have a philosophy of going about doing projects, and that it what makes them great, because that's when we call about diversity, that's what we want. It's Japanese being Japanese, let's say, and they present their diverse, because it's diverse from other points of view on how they approach projects and how they approach games. It's different, but it's a part of the diversity of philosophies of how you approach the same thing at this moment, where you can see, for example, Chinese developers, studios that do, for example, Black Myth Wukong, that there is going to be Wushong Fallen Feathers coming about. The Korean ones have, for example, at this moment coming up, Crimson Desert. Again, they have certain aspects that can borrow from other places, but they put their own unique vision, and that what people like to see. The same way that we have Western gaming developers, even when you find good games, for example, the more European-centric game developers, for example, you got the Polish ones, we got CD Projekt Red for a few years. When they did The Witcher, it's very Polish IP, because the writer of the books was Polish. It's very centric around Polish culture and mythos and legends and folklore. It's a diverse and different way of seeing things and approaching certain themes that you want to approach on the game, from, for example, more Japan, Chinese, more Asian kind of culture there. In that, it is what it demarks them, and for the gamer customer, that creates that diversity they are looking for. So diverse points of view of how to approach and how to pass through their own culture, their own beliefs, let's say, or their approach to certain topics and subjects of the human condition and all of that. And I think that's where the value is at. And when you try to confirm, then you got this kind of situations here, which at this point, 2021, again, coming back to Shawn Layden comments and interview. Basically, Japan's studio was merged with Sobi during a time when Sony was restructuring to place more emphasis on American audiences and consolidating resources in California. Again, this is basically the beginning of the end, to a certain extent, of Sony PlayStation, because PlayStation was very coveted because they were very centric on their own. They were inserted in a cultural frame completely different that they are now, which is in United States, especially in California, and that it makes that they've been making some restructuring in a lot of places from the top down, and that will affect the quality of their games and how they approach their projects there. And basically, Sony representative claimed that Japan remains an important market, which is bullshit. If it was an important market, you would have stayed in Japan and continue to do your own thing because you were doing pretty well until then. So I don't see why they wanted to do that. They wanted to do because again they saw more profits instead of maintaining the quality of their games and have a decent growth. They wanted to explode in terms of growth. Basically, that's it. Recent years have been seen Japanese flee the platform due to growing censorship to appease global standards. Again, this is what we've been seeing here. Is if you try to get away and deviate too much on what developers bought into when they went to those companies, and all of a sudden you have this kind of shift, people will start going around. You have again the same kind. I have the same conversation very recently regarding, for example, CD Projekt Red. It's been reported for some time now, since Witcher 3, and especially after Cyberpunk 2077 came out, a lot of the old guard of developers, creative directors, the guys that were on the upper management in terms of the creative control of the projects that were that put CD Projekt Red on the map, from Witcher 1 to until Cyberpunk 2020. Sorry, Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah, a lot of them went away. They formed their own studios. I covered, I think yesterday, I think Dawn something, Dawn Walker from Rebel Wolves or something like that. There are a lot of other handful of other studios that were opened from people that flew away, or they went away from CD Projekt Red because they saw a little bit of changing, not for the better. And the same thing happened. It's happening on Japanese developer studios. That they are saying that the publisher arm, in this case PlayStation, whatever they, I don't know what kind of the part of PlayStation is demanding certain things to be done in a certain way that are not in line with what they've been until now, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these layoffs, because then you try to replace very experienced developers by people that you are trying to cater to a checklist, and they are not the best people for the job, and you're seeing a lot of layoffs closing up now because it's kind of a 5-year delay in that sense. But yeah, basically, again, hopefully they can get around this. The only thing that it tries to have a saving grace, saying that Team Asobi recently wowed the industry with the recent platformer, the Astrobot one. Again, it's one game in a year of not that good launches, so take it as it is. I think you can take a win when you can. But yeah, this doesn't justify, instead of putting at least a handful of good games, you just put 4 shitty ones and just one that basically try to sell so well that he has to maintain the cost of the production of the other games that didn't sell that well. But yeah, basically this is it. We also, again, Ubisoft keeps on getting on a roller coaster of disasters, and now it seems that Ubisoft had disbanded Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown development team. Again, as a game itself, in terms of mechanic wise, I think this game seems to be pretty good. I didn't play the game, but yeah, the people that designed this game, even though it has some lack of better terms, some DEI checklists here, because again, Prince of Persia's didn't use dreadlocks or any kind of that. Even if you try to be gracious about it, and even try to recall, I don't know, Nubian peoples, usually they tend to be in Africa, not in Persia, but whatever. And even taking into account the previous games that were launched that were pretty good. I think the Prince of Persia Sands of Time, I played that one long time ago, and I think I also played the Warrior Within, the sequel, and I think I played the third one. I don't remember. I don't remember even the title of that game, but I remember playing Warrior then and enjoying pretty much there. And I've again, as gameplay mechanics, the game seems pretty good, but then again, it's the presentation that they throughout throughout the marketing cycle didn't fell too well because supposedly it underperformed, even though it seemed to be sold okayish. I think they had some numbers here. Sales estimates indicate that the game sold around, again, this is not very good, 54,000 units. Again, they didn't launch at the time on Steam. Again, one of those Ubisoft decisions that, again, you lost the initial launch window by not launching on Steam, and then people lose the interest because, again, I don't understand these people. You have so much time to try and monetize the sale of a game, especially these smaller kind of games there. Um, because if you lose that launch window, other games will come out in the upcoming weeks, and then the games that already been launched, they are gobbled up in new releases, especially on the Steam, which is the global marketplace on PC gaming. But yeah, supposedly the studio has been closed. They are disbanded, moving boxes around floors. I think they are going to be, or if not fired, they are going to be put out in other developer teams to, I don't know, to fulfill quotas in certain ways. But yeah, Ubisoft even publicly announced that the reallocation of resources within its company back in May, so it's been a while. It revealed that they were scrapping development for Division: The Heartland, which the Division franchise supposedly is a big one for them, at Red Storm Entertainment, and relocates resources to bigger opportunities as X Defiant and Rainbow Six Siege, I think. We kind of know how this is going. It's not going good. There are rumors they are thinking of shutting down Xdefiant because it's been a disgrace there. And Rainbow Six games, or I think the multiplayer one, it's not in good state. Also, again, trying to reinforce failure is a little bit undermining yourself, but whatever. And again, the company, since May, they are trying to regain leadership in open world adventures and expand footprints as game as a service narrative experience, which is working excellent for them by leveraging ongoing efforts on proprietary cutting edge technologies as a differentiating factor. Again, it's not going well for them in that sense. Again, they are doubling down and triple down on failure and stupidity. Again, you can blame a lot of it on the Guillemot family. Um, the way they've been going around there, and the fact that they let themselves get influenced by being what we can consider woke ideology, lack of a better term for me at this moment. But again, they are doubling down and triple down on that. At least that's their official position. Given that with also CD Projekt Red, Ubisoft is doing some scholarship programs that supposedly are very inclusive and diverse. If you're not a white male, at least that's my perception. So yeah, you got that contradiction there. But yeah, from Ubisoft for today, this is it. And then lastly, we got supposedly Activision, again from Blizzard. Activision Blizzard, Black Ops. I don't know. I never. I think I only played the first and second Call of Duty. Got Call of Duty. Sorry, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Now we got a new, very diverse and interesting character, which is Volta Rossi. Again, I don't know anything about Call of Duty. I don't follow any of these shooters, not even Battlefield in these franchises. I'm not sure what this is. Got Roberts here and a very diverse cast of characters. We've got an Asian guy, a very male girl, a black, whatever it is, and I don't know who these guys here. Maybe one of them is gay or something like that. But yeah, supposedly this new. I don't even know how to describe this. It's supposedly it's a street marked rogue with blue blood pedigree. Volta Rossi is an enigma. Yeah, it is an enigma. Who left the comfort of aristocracy to forge a new name as Hanet? Han Hament specialist? Jesus. their ties, which is their they them pronouns here, to the Lutasi family, give them unique insight into Avalon. So I think she has, I don't know, uh, multiple personality disorder. Um, yeah, seems like a guy. I don't know. She them. I don't know. I don't know what this is here. But yeah, this basically goes in line with what Grum's already said, at least since May. This was lasted in May, which is basically the incentives of DEI is basically the bonuses and review depend on how hard on you on DEI. Sorry about that. Was my bad here. Can you? Thank you. Yeah. It's basically it's all about money. They incentivize people with money, and people go along. There is no dissent. There isn't a lot of dissent regarding this. But yeah, on Activision Blizzard, DI officers are installed on every development team to ensure the message. Again, we can discuss that in another video. But yeah, they have like I don't know what we can call sensors on what they allow or won't allow on the development process there. But yeah, and usually the final results is stuff like this. We got the on Twitter the chin chud from women. We got examples from Aloy, from the I don't know, I don't even remember the franchise there. We got the Perfect Dark reboot coming out. We got the other one from the inserted female from Warhammer lore. We got this thing here also, and we got a lot of those in a lot of modern audiences, kind of a thing there. Again, I don't know who is this for, but we'll see how it goes, if it's going to sell that good or not. But yeah, I've been rambling a lot today. Let's go for some gaming deals. We got Vampire Survivors again. It's on a discount. Again, even at full price, I think this is an excellent deal. It's very cheap game. It offers a lot, and are going to launch Auto Castlevania. I covered this yesterday. Doesn't have a price yet, and it's coming soon, so we don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. I will assume until the end of this month. Yeah, until arrives on October 31st. Okay, even with the only the base game, you get a lot of stuff to enjoy, and then afterwards, even at full price, I think it's a fair price for the DLCs that they are being launching there. I got everything basically bought up there that I managed to buy in the last sale that the game was, and it's a recommendation for me. I still play this from time to time. It's a bullet hell, let's say. Then you got also Prey. It's 80% on the base game, or in the digital deluxe edition, 75% off. Again, this is a recommendation for my part, especially at this price point. Again, if you don't know exactly what this game is about, you can check out my first couple episodes of this game, of the series that I did. You will get a pretty good idea what this game is about. We got also Dishonored. It's part of the Arcane Studio sale. Again, Dishonored is 75% on the base game. You got the definitive edition, which is not that expensive there, also 75% off. Then you got the sequel, Dishonored 2, 80% on the base game. And okay, you got the Death of Outsider. This is the Deluxe CD bundle, which is 80% off also. Then we got Plague Tale Innocence, 80%. Usually this seems to be a good one. And you got the bundle if you want to buy both games. But if you want to buy complete the collection of this duology, you got also Plague Tale Requiem, 60% off. It's been online with last year or so when they go on sale. So don't expect pretty much lower than this at this moment in time. And then finally, we got Atomic Heart. Again, this is a game that I really want to play one of these days. You got the demo here if you're not sure if this game is for you. And then you got the several editions are around 60% off. On GG, we got Dredge, 40% off. Again, it's one of those games that I think it's well worth it. Then you got Metro. This is a franchise bundle. It's got the first two games, the Redux version of them, and then Metro Exodus with all the DLC associated with it, 84% off. And finally, we got the Thaumaturge. very dark spiritual detective kind of thing there with turn-based combat, and I think the focus here is a lot of being detective more than combat, even though I think the combat part seems to be pretty good. But yeah, it's 33% off. And with all that said, I'm going to wrap up this for today. I've been ranting a lot today, and I'm getting tired. But yeah, I will wrap up with a plug on my Patreon for access support. Again, the access support is for me to get around and trying to get a better solution from my storage, so I can have backups of stuff that I do for my clients, and of course some extra space for the videos that I do for the channel. And with all that said, hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. So until then, Kunamy Master out.